I've just been thinking of a friend who is an expert on the remaining expert, as far as I know, on Jeffrey Hodgson, acclaimed by some, as I say, as the most spiritual person of the 20th century, but possibly wrongly so, but some definitely claimed him such. And my friend who was giving a talk the other day, at some point, well, the only thing I did say in his talk, towards the end, I said, what really did you find that you so valued in knowing Jeffrey Hodgson? He said, that he always had time for you. He'd say to his wife, well, find a time somewhere in the diary, can you, so that we can meet and talk about this. Something like that, you see. Always made time for you. That's what was really about you. And I was thinking increasingly, well, you probably know from my recordings that I'm not thinking of the astral life as, of astral beings, if you like, angels, fairies, whatever, I'm not thinking of those as the ultimate. We are heaven bound. And I was surprised to hear that, in spite of being, as I see it, the authority on Jeffrey Hodgson, in a way that's my friend's view as well. That in fact the astral world it's got a few dangers. I mean, there are other spirits in the astral world that are not so good. I suppose what the Pentecostal would label as demonic. Yeah. That is not an entirely safe place. And therefore, what he's valuing is something higher. Now, my friend's not teaching on such, as far as I know. And I wasn't thinking of him in that light. But on reflection, I'm very pleased to hear of it. Yes. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. You see, there are many byroads. And the wonderful thing about this universe is its limitations. You are short of time and resources and opportunities. So you optimize. This is the economist talking, you understand. You prioritize. No, I don't do anything perfectly. I prioritize. I do the thing that's most important as a priority first. And I don't do it perfectly because that's at the cost of doing the other things. And the other things become more and more the priority as I gain something of this. So I then switch to what is then the priority, that which is most important, and the other things to do. And continue doing that until something else becomes the priority. This is to maximize one's utility in economic jargon terms. It's to get the most out of life. If you're a perfectionist, then you do this until it's absolutely as right as it could possibly be. but it takes a lot more time and resources that could have been better spent elsewhere, bringing more utilities, it's called, more of what's of value. So we're not wasting our time on prioritizing something that shouldn't be prioritized. And it's possible to go to the ultimate heaven, not the astral or the causal world or something like it, or even to waste your time trying to perfect this universe. It doesn't. It stays much the same as it was in many ways for thousands of years. There's good and bad here. It's not that it becomes all good. We can make some significant changes in passing. How to live more happily and more successfully, more rationally, more beautifully, more peacefully, more of life, the fullness of life. But here is not our priority. The eternal is always in total far more important. So we have an eye to the eternal. We're not perfecting our option of tomorrow because the present is also very important. It leaves options open, which allows us to adjust where we've got things wrong. So we do, in some sense, prioritize sustaining life here. But our real priority is life eternal and the gaining of a happy and full life eternal at that. So much of our concern, ideally, is accordingly. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. It comes to mind that I'm trusting, I'm assuming that the values that are important to this life, in other words, the values that seem to underpin and ensure the sort of life that you find very satisfactory and good, are the same values as are necessary in eternity. You know that eternal life is in some sense a more enduring, of course, and fuller life than what we have here. But that essentially the groundwork of that can be gained by a truly successful life here. Successful in terms of fullness of life, happiness, health, vitality, creativity, understanding, wisdom, goodness, blessing. You get the drift, don't you? That those values that prioritize the gaining of such will also be a great blessing to eternal life. I'm sort of assuming this. I'm trusting this. That in some sense, therefore, this can be our life here, now, can be the childhood of a full and wonderful life, eternal. I realize I'm just assuming that's the case and trusting it to be so. Now, of course, the Jesus story is that we're trusting that there is a God. It was assumed, I think, in the cultural setting in which the story was birthed, that there are gods, and that the ideal in some sense was that there's one God and he's not only all-powerful, but most significantly, he's loving to us. He values us, he loves us. And that the assumption of such, which is simplistically gained by simply calling him Dad, Abba, a kindly, loving Father, wonderfully so, that assuming this as our foundation to our rationality in actions and beliefs is the way to go, is a priority, a great necessity, if you like, to happiness, not only in eternity, but here too. It's the meaning to life, in other words, in some sense, and something that is vital to understanding what our priority is, and therefore successful living, and successfully gaining what we call the kingdom of heaven. Well, I'm going to make a break here, so thank you, Heavenly Dad.